feeling alone, lonely, and isolated as a sensitive and empathic person is something I've had some experience with. And today, that's what I want to talk about, just to share some of that experience and some of the things that I have been experimenting with and learning from over the past few years as I have been kind of coming out of my shell more in the world. And yeah, because for a lot of my life, as I think because of my sensitive nature, I pulled away from the world a lot, and I pulled away from people and society. I spent years living in the woods in cabins that I built with friends, and I spent a chunk of that time alone. Um, and I think a big part of that was my tendency to pull away from the world, to feel like an outsider. And most of the people who I've developed close friendships with in my life have been similar. They've been really sensitive, empathic people who feel like outsiders, lifelong outsiders. So yeah, I spent years living really quite physically removed from society, at least one step removed. And then after that, I spent years in like solitary, almost monkish introspection and emotional excavation. And it kind of, I feel like over the years, it's almost like I became more and more of an island, and I felt more isolated in my sensitivity and my feeling nature from people and society. And I had this, maybe what I now think is a misconception that, there are people like me who feel so deeply and are outsiders and weird and different. And then the people I connect with who identify in that way as well. And then there are normal people. And I'm not so convinced at this point in my life that a lot of normal people really exist. I think that everybody is a human, and just by virtue of that, there are these fundamental themes and challenges and lessons and desires that we're all stumbling into, against, and through. For example, this desire to love and to be loved. We all have insecurities. We have things we're ashamed of, things we're proud of, things we yearn to experience, things we fear. There's just these common threads, the most essential things that they're so deep, and they run through all of our lives. And it took me a long time to, I think I started several years ago, consciously trying to take down my own shell, my own emotional armoring at work and around acquaintances and around people that I hadn't felt as comfortable and natural around. And one of the first things I noticed was, like I said, it's like, wait a minute, the more I pay attention to what all of these people around me in my life are talking about, sharing, and going through, the more of myself I see, the more of these quintessential desires and challenges and losses and loves. I see it in them and I hear it in them. And the more I share about my own challenges and hopes and insecurities and fears and all of the real stuff going on in my life and express authentically, the more people light up around me, especially if I'm just sharing it really comfortably and naturally and not going into extreme mushiness or vulnerability. I have found that the more I come out of my shell, the more I'm natural and authentic, the more people are kind of like, it's like a light goes off and they're like, hey, I feel that too. I've had the same challenges with dating. I've had the same challenges with fear and insecurity. The things that for years I felt were so weird and I had so much insecurity about and so much vulnerability around are sometimes, and oftentimes, the things that others relate to the most deeply. They're the things that light people up and that really connect to the heart of others. And that is something that still blows my mind regularly, because I'm still in this process of, having these walls that go up, having this protective armoring that I'll accidentally, habitually guard myself with. In the past, I would, yeah, like I said, I had a clearer distinction between like how I would relate to different types of people throughout my life. There were my close friends who I could be really open about my feelings and my spirituality and all of the challenges and struggles and loves and losses I was going through. And then there was everybody else who I would be more closed around. And I would have this wall up, and I mistook that for other people being closed off and being more normal than me. But I think what was often going on was I had, put up a wall around myself. I had carved a moat around myself that prevented me from sharing my honesty and reality with others. And it prevented them from responding to that, or just there was a deep, normal, healthy kind of connection that is my natural way of expressing and being in the world that I had stopped up. And I had thought, oh, it's just that I need to be around the right kind of people, and they're so rare and I'm so unusual. And in the last few years, like I said, as I take down that wall, what I've been finding is, damn, there's humans are humans, and we all have these mushy hearts, and often we do have these walls as well. And the more I peek out from behind my wall, the more beauty and depth I see in all of these people around me. It's not just the spiritual ones. Sometimes the spiritual ones are actually the most guarded and the most difficult to connect with. And I was a case study in that. Maybe I still am. I probably still am in some ways. It's important for me to acknowledge that, just as I'm in the process of figuring out how to be more authentic, less guarded, less insecure, less defensive, and I guess lead the way towards more depth and realness throughout the landscape of my life. And of course, as I've been, peeking out from behind that wall and taking it down here and there, there are some people who are less open and maybe turned off by that, and like annoyed by me and turned off by my way of communicating. And that's fine. That's part of being a person. And yet that has not been my predominant experience. The thing that really stands out is the more I have become natural, the more I have allowed myself to express in a true way. And like I said, not just tearing open my vulnerability in an extreme way that would be inappropriate, but just, slowly becoming more authentic in a stable, grounded way. My predominant experience is people like that. People light up around that. It makes everybody's world a brighter place, especially when it's done with compassion and empathy and warmth and support for those around. And I say that I think I've already acknowledged a couple times that I'm still a lone wolf. I spend a lot of time in solitude and introspection, and there's probably plenty of room for expansion in my life as far as the amount of deep connections I have. And still in that place, which I can humbly acknowledge, the friendships that I do have, the relationships with acquaintances and a variety of people in my life, there is a level of sincerity there that I'm so grateful for, and it really does fill up like a cup inside of me, so much so that a part of me feels really just blessed, and like I'm not a desert that's yearning for the water of connection, for the water of deep, honest connection. But there actually is that water flowing And I'm really grateful for that. And a lot of it has to do, like I said, with just starting to grow, force myself beyond my my walls, my insecurity, my hiding. And that's been a slow process, one step at a time, doing it in a grounded way and doing it more with the people who feel really safe, and then finding other spaces that feel safe. And it's a journey that I'm still on, and making these episodes is certainly a part of it, learning how to step beyond my insecurities as an author and just share my writing and my voice with the world in an authentic way. It's just, yeah, part of that coming out of my shell. And I think that's all I wanted to share today. Just a little perspective on being a sensitive, empathic person, feeling isolated, feeling lonely. And sometimes it is hard to find people who really get us and understand us. And it's a great blessing when those types of people show up. And for myself, a big lesson has been to uh, step beyond my insecurities and my defenses and bring my depth more into my life as it is, and seeing the kind of connection that can happen that wouldn't otherwise without that. I think that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you can let me know. I love to hear when people enjoy these. You can like this, you can comment, you can subscribe if you haven't, you can turn on the notifications so you find out when new episodes are published. And if you are interested in my book, you haven't checked it out already, it's called How to Open the Heart, and there's info about that in the description. And until next time, take care, everybody, and enjoy the days.